What happens if you have Saturn in the 4th house? This is one of the more difficult positions. Let's see on the psychological level what happens. The 4th house is the house of the soul, of the heart, of the emotional state of a person, his ability to feel content and happy, his ability for his mind and heart to be at peace, so the person feels peaceful and feels happy. It's the house of happiness. And Saturn is the planet where we feel separated, where we have difficulty fulfilling the area of that house. Saturn is something, it's where we made mistakes in past lives. So often such people in past lives, they were stuck in more negative mental attitudes or emotional attitudes. So they kind of are born already with the default setting of being more emotionally depressive types, you know, a bit more moody or a bit more stroppy even, you know, because they're kind of disconnected emotionally. Their mind is disconnected from the joys of the heart. So the heart, there is a bit of a blockage here emotionally. Often if you have psychic sight, you'll see that the heart chakra sometimes have problem here. Emotionally connecting to others might be a bit hard. It doesn't mean they cannot form attachments. Of course they can. But it's just getting and feeling the joy of life. It's a bit harder sometimes, emotionally feeling connected. Usually this happens because in early childhood, if you don't believe in past life, very often this repeats in the early childhood of a child, because the 4th house shows the mother or the primary nurturing parent of nurturing figure. Maybe it was a grandmother for you, or maybe just a father if your mother was not there. But like the primary nurturing parent must have been either very strict or restrictive with Saturn, very, very dogmatic, maybe kind of not giving enough love for the person, or maybe lacking a lot, because Saturn has separative influence. Saturn brings the difficult karma, so you might have difficult karma with your mother if Saturn, especially if Saturn is with the 4th house cusp, with the 4th Roman numerical, and the closer it is to the degree of this 4th house cusp, which you can see on the table, the more difficult it can get. You know, usually if Saturn is in good signs like Libra or Aquarius or Capricorn, it might just indicate a mother or nurturing parental or family figure, or the early bringing up of the child, because the 4th house shows early childhood, where parents were more strict, more disciplinarian, where they taught the child like a lot of they gave the child a lot of responsibility from little, and he had a lot of responsibility with home and with parents, you know. And also, but when Saturn is in a difficult sign or with difficult aspects, like Saturn in Aries or Saturn with Leo in Cancer, in some of the other, in Scorpio for instance, Saturn is quite weak there, so often it might mean that the parents were quite oppressive almost for the child. And that the child even wants to, when it grows up, disconnects any relationship with the parents and wants to end up the karma with the parents, difficult karma with the parents there, that can be quite painful. And often, sometimes a person needs to, wherever Saturn is, we have more responsibilities and hard work to do. So, first of all, hard work on the relationship with parents, but also hard work, you might have responsibilities even later in life. However much you dislike your parents, you might have to take care of them. Physically, financially, you know, maybe when they're old. It kind of gives you karma connected to relationships with your parents and with your home and family. You might have throughout life much more responsibilities to your own family that you create, and to land. You might be bound with, say, with some debts or something to your land, or you have to work very hard on your land. Such people with Saturn in the 4th house can become very good agricultural people, people who take care of the land and who work it very hard, because this is how you work through Saturn karma, by making it your profession. Or people who wants to straighten out the karma with the earth and the ground. It's with Saturn there. If it's not their profession, I would recommend them to take up gardening, so they can reconnect with the roots and they can strengthen this difficult karma there. Or to take up like tending to managing, you know, the home, you know, and also sometimes people with this position to work out this difficult karma, Saturn in the 4th house, can even become estate managers or estate property sellers, whatever. You know, 4th house rules property, and Saturn is a planet of hard work, so this is how you pay off difficult karma. So difficult karma with parents, parental figures, you might have to pay it off by You know, there might be separation, early separation from parental figure, or you trying to run away, but having to pay karma for these parents, or having to be around there. Also, I have noticed often that such people, they often want to be, you know, go away from their place of origin, but often they're bound there, you know. It's never 100%. As I said, astrology, there might be some beautiful aspects which allow the person to go away, live in different countries, you know. But usually the karma is with the family of the person, the karma is to the land. And a person can escape his difficult karma, but sooner or later, with Saturn, if they relocate and go and live in a foreign country, but sooner or later they're brought up back to the country of origins to complete the karma with their parents. So unless they've completed the karma with their parents and their homeland, so they can live away, you know, especially in their 30s, mid-30s onwards, this is when you complete the difficult karma of Saturn, so you can separate and put a cross to your place of birth and, you know, go and live totally away differently. But usually, if you haven't paid off the karma, you're brought back, you know, to complete this relationship with parents, with land, with responsibilities with families. And often people, whenever they have families, when Saturn is with this fourth house, they tend to have a lot of responsibilities there. They tend to often feel very responsible and very serious about their duties with the family, so they don't take lightly those things, you know, and they feel it like they have a karma towards family, so their soul feels it has to pay back, it has to work hard, it has to give it itself. And fourth house also shows the type of property and land you can have, and with Saturn there, it might be stony, rocky, mountainous, sometimes or more dry, because Saturn is dry and cold, or stony, or rocky, you know, or you can have a property which is sturdy, because Saturn is very strong, but kind of simple, you know, maybe made of stone, or maybe old building, because Saturn in the fourth house can make a people attract to something old, because Saturn rules old things, maybe some old style, like a cottage, you know, country cottage, something more simple, folk style, or sturdy, but all, you know, and stony often. Sometimes it might be even isolated home. Such a person might want to have not semi-detached or attached house, like totally isolated, away from others. And often in their later age, because fourth house shows your early childhood, which might have been burdened with a lot of responsibilities there and very strict parents, or some disruptive, difficult influences with your parents. And it also can show the finding of your life, the ending of your life, the last years. So a person in the last years of age, when they're with Saturn in the fourth house, especially if Saturn is in difficult signs like Scorpio, like, you know, the water signs, the fire signs often, a person can get more isolated in their old age. It doesn't mean they'll feel unhappy because of that. They might want it themselves, you know, to separate, because Saturn has this separating, isolating influence. Let's see. Yes, and sometimes when Saturn is in the fourth house, we talked about the mother, we talked about the home, the karma with parents, and also it's how wherever Saturn is, a person is very rigid to changes there. So a person with Saturn in the fourth house can be very rigid to any changes in their home, in their family. For instance, my father has this position, and it's very hard to make him do any refurbishment or renovation at home. He wants things to be as they were always. Such people tend to be very nostalgic, and often they can even be patriotic. If Saturn is strong, they tend to try and impose on others their old traditions from their culture or from their family, and they try to impose ethnical traditions and regulations on others, even if they live in another country, or even if those around them are not patriotic enough. The person with Saturn in the fourth house, with a strong Saturn in particular, will try to impose those, you know, enforce the ethnic traditions on others. Or if Saturn is weak, as we said, in fire or in water signs more often, this is when the parents were somehow oppressive, when the parents were, where the early environment of the child was oppressive or lacking in some way, even deprivation in early childhood is possible, and sometimes even shame connected with the family, but this is in more extreme cases. And as I said, they resist. it's very rarely that these people can change properties and homes. So even when they want, when Saturn is there, it blocks changes. So somehow the universe or karma keeps them in one place. They don't change properties often. Their habits at home stay very similar. And but this is nothing wrong, you know. A lot of people are very okay with that, you know, to have responsibility towards families, towards close ones. This is kind of inborn in us to naturally accept such responsibilities. But the worst thing is also that Saturn can delay the acquiring of this property, because Saturn has delaying influence. So you might take you at least till 30, 35 onwards to gain your own property. And before that, if you gain any, it might be so full of responsibilities that it's much more stress. But always managing property and family is a bit more of a stress and a bit more hard work for such a person. And they have to do this work. There is no way around it, you know. They have to learn to be detached and to do their responsibilities towards their parents, towards their whole family. And usually they have a bunch of those responsibilities, a lot more than others. And also, fourth house is vehicles and properties, the luxuries of life. So they might come later in life. Acquiring those comes later. Or they're more Saturnian, either vehicles like second-hand vehicles or vintage cars. If Saturn is in a good dignity with some good planets there, the person might have a collection of vintage cars, you know, old cars. Or when it's a bad Saturn in a difficult sign, it might be someone who just has a lot of old baggers, who likes or likes even repairing old cars in some way, you know, or like runs them till they start falling apart somehow. Okay, so I think also, as I said, the mother might have been quite critical, quite rigid, or the maternal figure. The person is also very consistent in their routines at home. They like their life regulated routines when it comes to their daily life at home, you know. It's funny because this is everything that my father is, because he has it there. And it's just there is this negative side to them that is painful to others, that they often are more moody and negative than other people, more stroppy sometimes. In extreme cases, they can go to downright full dejection and depression when there is a breakdown of the person. Emotionally, a person with Saturn in the fourth house often tends to worry a lot, because they feel like they're disconnected from their needs. They don't feel like their emotional needs are being met, or their just needs of their body and their overall their needs are being met, and they start projecting. For compensation, they start trying to take too much care of others, to worry too much of others, to overprotect them, to overmother them, to overcontrol the life of others. And sometimes it can be painful for the other people around them, you know, overly worrying, overly projecting the needs of others, overly mothering them. This is what my father is like, trying to have more control of home, you know. This is what Saturnian breakdown period is, not breakdown, but overcompensating period is. And for women, I think this position is most difficult for women, because emotionally they feel more inclined to negativity. They have to battle with that in their life, and usually it tends to improve after 35. They start to learn how to regulate the emotions, because Saturn is a planet of control. Fourth house is emotions, so they try and learn how to, you know, how to deal with the emotions. And sometimes they have to deal with emotional trauma that happened from childhood, and only after 30, 35 can they let go of this, you know, and become more emotionally relaxed and connected within themselves. So thank you so much, and please share. Do you agree with any of those indications?